Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Outgrow's Marketer of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at outgrow.co. And for this month, we're going to interview Jen Spencer, who's the CEO of SmartBug Media. Thanks for joining us, Jen.
Oh, so glad to be here.
So Jen, we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. You get 3 passes. In case you don't want to answer the question, you can just say pass, but try to keep your answers to one word or one sentence only, okay?
Okay.
All right, so the first one, at what age do you want to retire?
Maybe 70?
Okay. How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
45 minutes.
What item is worth spending more money on?
A really nice handbag.
And what is one thing you regret spending money on?
Pass.
What movie do you enjoy quoting the most?
Elf.
Who's your favorite Disney character?
Pass.
What are you most looking forward to in 2023?
Continuing to grow SmartBug and hire more people.
Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey?
I'm going to go Zuckerberg.
Okay. The biggest mistake of your career?
Biggest mistake? Not trusting myself.
How do you relax?
Good scotch and Netflix.
How many cups of coffee do you drink in a day?
1 to 1.5.
A habit of yours that you hate?
Sleeping in.
At what time of day are you most productive?
Afternoon.
Really? Okay. And the last one is your favorite Netflix show?
There's so many. I think The Queen's Gambit was that was amazing.
Okay. So tell us more about how come your afternoons are productive. Mostly people say mornings.
I'm not a morning person. And I think it's partially because SmartBug is a fully remote organization. We've got people all over, mostly in North America, but a lot of people are on the East Coast. And I'm in Arizona. So I'm on Pacific time or Mountain time, depending on the time of year. And so I'm really booked with meetings and connecting with people in the morning. And so the afternoon is when I get to get into my groove and just play music and kind of put my head down and do more deep work. And I'm definitely more of that afternoon into the early evening kind of a worker in my groove. It's just quieter.
Yeah. Fair. Okay, so let's jump to the long questions. The first one is, do you believe that whatever the economic scenario, that businesses will continue to evolve and the relevance of cloud-based SaaS will only increase?
I mean, sure, right?
Yeah.
I think it just depends. I hate to say, it just depends, but it does, right? And as long as the platforms that are out there, the cloud-based SaaS that is being produced and marketed and sold is helping people. If it's helping people achieve a goal, do their jobs better, then that's only going to continue to grow and evolve. So I think it just comes down to, especially during challenging economic times, although really this is true in any time, is you have to look introspectively and say, if we did not exist tomorrow, what would that loss be? And how significant would that be? So that's just the frame that I would encourage people to look through.
And how would you put that frame for your own company? So if your company didn't exist tomorrow, tell us the loss there would be, as an example.
Yeah, we're a SaaS company, but we do support SaaS companies. And so I think about our clients. And we have, well over 100 clients that are depending on us each and every day to help them achieve their revenue goals. And we're working very closely with them and owning their goals as if they were our own. And so it would be extremely traumatic for those clients and all of the entities that those clients serve, all of those clients, kind of customers, and whether they're current or future customers and stakeholders. So if we didn't exist tomorrow, a lot of people would not be in a good place.
So you mentioned remote culture. So what is your take on remote culture? Do you believe that long-term remote work will have a negative impact on work culture or not?
No, I don't. I mean, I have to say, prior to coming to SmartBug, I never worked in a fully remote environment before. I traveled a lot, so
Mhm.
I worked from lots of hotel rooms and conference rooms and coffee shops while I was out and about. But I always had a home office to kind of go back to. But I also managed teams that were hybrid, and that was really challenging. So I really feel for all of those team members and managers who are embracing hybrid work. I don't think I think it can work, but I think it comes with its own unique set of challenges. But at SmartBug, we've always been remote. So we've been around for 15 years now, and from day one remote, and we will always be. And it was the first time I had worked in a remote environment, and I was really scared because I'm a get in front of people, build culture, like feed off of the energy in a room kind of person. And I was really worried about that. But because we built our culture with intentionality of knowing, okay, we're remote, so, but how do we build connections with each other, and how do we what do we need to do intentionally to make sure that we've got that company culture that we want? Because we've done that, we have a very, very vibrant culture, and people at SmartBug know each other far better and are far more connected than teams that work together in the same room, right up next to each other in other companies that I've worked at. So I'm excited about it, but it doesn't mean that everyone's going to succeed. It means, it's you have to look at what is your company, like what is your business, what do you do, how do people collaborate with each other, and are you going to make the investments that you need to make in the way that those teams actually function? And you can't just phone this in. Be successful that way.
And so how about your clients? Are they also very remote-y or hybrid-y, or what's up with them?
Yeah, a mixture, right? We've got clients who are all in office, uh, companies. We have clients who are hybrid. We have some that are leaning into fully remote. So a little bit of everything. But I will say, all of our clients, I mean, they know that we are completely remote. So we already know that they're comfortable with that. And so it's something that pre-pandemic used to come up here and there, right? Some people would have a hard time picturing, how can you actually get work done? How can you be really collaborative when you're not all in the same place? And for those people, they might end up choosing an agency that's local to them, that can meet with them in person and have that in-person FaceTime. But post pandemic, now it's everyone's eyes are opened a little bit more, and like, okay, like this, maybe this does work. Okay. So I think our clients are happy that we've got talented people, and they just want the work to get done, and they want to hit their goals. And then for as far as their own business, that's really unique to them.
And so where would you say is the best way to transform your customers or your clients into evangelists for your brand in general?
Well, I think it starts with just doing really good work for them. So doing what you say you're going to do. And I know that sounds like table stakes. To me, that's table stakes. Do what you said you were going to do. Unfortunately, there are a lot of marketing agencies that don't do what they say they're going to do. So we never want to be one of them. So we always want to make sure that it's when we bring a client on, we want to really make sure that we believe we can make them wildly successful. So it means we've got a pretty in-depth discovery process on the sales side of things, because if we don't think we're going to be able to help somebody, it's not going to benefit either of us, right? For us to take on that client, that short-term kind of win is not really a win. So that's the first thing, is really making sure there's good fit, and we think our intelligent inbound methodology is going to help them. Then it's really understanding their business and dedicating the resources up front to really making sure that we've got, good synergy. And then it's executing on the plan and iterating. So looking at data and seeing, okay, this is what our hypothesis was for them, for their marketing strategy and their goals. Here's what we're actually seeing, kind of as early as we can. What are the results we're seeing, and how do we want to adapt? And if we do that, then, and our clients hit their goals, then our clients leave us reviews in third-party places. They serve as references for us, and they champion our content on social media platforms where we know we're attracting other potential customers. So it all comes down to doing really great work for our people.
Again, speaking of the kind of work that is done nowadays, do you believe that for startups and specialist apps, integrating with the leading platforms in their category has become a must-have, not nice to have requirement in order to win customers?
Definitely. It's definitely a must-have. I was just reading an article before we joined this conversation about connected systems, and how 80% of marketers, this was an article that HubSpot published, 80% of marketers believe that having the right data, having personalized experiences is far more important now than ever before for reaching potential customers. But half of marketers don't feel they've got the data that they need in order to make that possible. And I totally believe it. I believe it just in the marketing roles that I've sat, sales and marketing roles I've sat in myself, and what I've seen of our clients and our partners. And it is challenging when you don't have those systems integrated. And as you grow, it just becomes more challenging. So if there's something that I wish I would have done, when I joined SmartBug in 2017, we were 28 people. Today, in 2022, we're over 175 people, just as like a frame of reference for size of growth. And I wish there are certain systems we would have integrated then, because now you get busy, and there's so much to do, and there's so much data flowing through your systems, and if they're not connected, you're missing out on signals that could really inform your strategy and help support your goals. And so as early as you can, as early as it makes sense to do so for your business, I highly recommend it, because you don't want to be in this place where you're then trying to play technical debt catch up when you really should be putting your foot on the gas and really, going for that next phase of growth.
So could you give examples of some of your clients who have managed to do this well?
I can't share specific client information necessarily. Although I will say, I guess I will say one of our clients, because we have a published case study, the Arbor Company. So they're an organization that has senior living communities, which a lot of our clients, I know it's not on SaaS, we've been talking about software, but in that senior living space, they've got multiple locations, and they run a lot of different kinds of advertising. So they've got digital, right? And they're practicing inbound, but there's also traditional advertising, because that demographic and that market, it still makes a lot of traditional advertising still makes a lot of sense. But how do you blend the traditional, like offline marketing with the digital online? And so through using certain tools like CallRail, which will help and integrate that with HubSpot as their marketing platform, we can actually track which ads, which offline types of advertisement is contributing to inbound calls. And we can see which publications are performing the best and which regions are performing the best. And so that's an example of something back in, if I take myself back, 10 or 12 years, and when I was running marketing and doing a lot of offline advertising, you just had to kind of guess, right? Like you would say, well, we spent X amount in radio and TV and newspaper, and they launched on these days, and we saw an uptick in sales on these days. And so you could make some correlations, right? That was the best you could do. Now, our client Arbor, they can actually draw a direct line to this specific ad resulted in this call that came in that got this booking that resulted in this new resident moving in. So it's pretty cool.
So how do you think the entire offline versus online advertisement thing is now going, not considering the online ads are now also flooded with bots, real bots? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to say, our focus is so much more on organic, and paying attention to some of those intense signals. So while we do a lot of paid media for our clients, that's not what we lead with as an organization. So I might just not be the best person to answer that question for you right now.
So going back to ecosystems then, so almost every major SaaS category today has thriving ecosystems of software and service firms who grow around core platforms. So would you agree that community-led growth, second-party data, marketplaces are ultimately all ecosystems?
Yes, I do. I do firmly believe so. And I think the idea of a community, I mean, that is let me back up and say, when we've previously thought about ecosystems, I think about it through the lens of channel, and doing a lot of work in channel sales and channel marketing, and creating this army of basically volunteer salespeople who there's some other reason why it makes sense for them to be recommending your business, but it's because there's this sort of secondary benefit that they're getting from recommending you. But that is powerful to have someone who's not your brand, right? Like a partner say, hey, this is a platform I recommend, and this is a solution I recommend. That's effective and powerful in and of itself. Now you take a community of users and evangelists, they have literally nothing to gain, right? There's like no financial benefit, right? I mean, maybe there's something that the brand is doing to incentivize those people. Let's put that aside, because they're not in a sales kind of position. It's not, very plainly obvious that they're getting something from this. In the same way, like influencer marketing, if you're very familiar with that, you might kind of make that correlation. But these communities of these people who are evangelizing the products that they're using, it's pretty huge. And so those brands that have found a way to tap into that, to invest in those communities and grow them, that's now become an ecosystem that is significantly more powerful, or has the capacity to be significantly more powerful than your traditional VAR channel kind of ecosystem that is what started all of this.
True. I was going to say, so ecosystems are everywhere now to the tune of 70 trillion, according to McKinsey. What are some of the ways in which businesses can leverage the power of this ecosystem-driven marketing?
Well, I think we hit on a couple of those things. So one, it might be through technology partners that you have, but when you bring on some kind of a partner, there's a win-win where you are referring or co-selling, collaborating on deals with each other. I would look at, well, how do you leverage more from your shared marketing efforts? And how do you layer your editorial calendars, your campaigns together to do more together, right? We've got countless examples of you go alone, you do something alone, right? You can be successful, but if you partner with someone else, how that compounds, and 1 + 1 = 3, not 2, right? So we've seen that happen. And I think that's to me, that's like sort of traditional, right? Traditional digital partnership ecosystem. But so many businesses, so many leaders are just now kind of recognizing that as an opportunity. But the other thing with your evangelists, it's figuring out like everyone has a community, they have an ecosystem. Even if you don't think you do, you actually do, right? Because you have people who are using your product or services and they have an opinion about it, and they are talking about it, whether online or offline. And so it's up to you as that brand to say, how do we want to corral this information? And there's so many different ways you can do that, and different technology and different programs that you can implement. But I think it's right there. It's ripe for the taking. People want to make that investment.
And how come this is something that is coming to the fore now? What's happened in tech that the discussion about ecosystems has come to the fore now and not before?
Yeah, I think it's a few different things. I think, first of all, the proliferation of social media and the way people engage, and just the capacity to kind of connect, is really key. None of this would be possible without that technology. Second, as people faced the ecosystem, I'm not saying that the pandemic caused this by any means, right? But as people were sort of forced apart in a lot of ways, they then needed to lean into something in order to get that sense of community and connect with people. And so you start leaning into different online channels and kind of starting to join groups that maybe you otherwise would have not, because you didn't have the time or the space, or you were getting fulfillment, like personal and professional fulfillment, from other parts of your life. So I think it opened that up. And now, even though people are interacting and going back into an office and going to events, there's still so much value that's coming from those online interactions, that people are recognizing, hey, I want to continue to invest here. And finally, it's through more advanced marketing attribution and sales attribution technology, we're able to see the impact. So if you can measure it, then you can start to look at, how do I scale it? How do I grow it? Right. And you're tracking it. And so then it becomes something that your C-suite is more willing to fund if they see that attribution. And so it's all of those things kind of all coming together that I think are pushing this idea of ecosystem and community-led growth into the forefront right now.
So speaking of like tech evolving, marketers usually rely on MarTech to equip them with the skills needed to compete in constantly changing and evolving markets. So what key factors, in your experience, will lead marketers to look for alternatives to major MarTech apps?
Factors that would lead them to look for alternatives. I think it's going to be reliability. So that's pretty huge. So if it's the platform you use every day, and you go and log in, and once a week, let's say, I'm just pulling this out of thin air, but things aren't firing off the way they are supposed to, they're gonna switch. They're gonna go look for something else. And the other thing is, I think it's simplicity. I think we're overwhelmed. I think there's marketers have so much on their plates, I make jokes about like being a Swiss Army knife marketer, who it's like, what did you just have to do everything, right? And it's if anything kind of remotely sounded like marketing, it kind of fell on marketing shoulders. And guess what? Almost everything remotely sounds like marketing these days. So it's overwhelming. So systems that are better connected and do more for their customers, or I guess on the flip side, the question was like, what would cause someone to leave? It's if the systems aren't connected, if they're not speaking to each other, if platforms don't do, maybe they're too shallow in that they look to have a really robust feature set, but actually really only like 2 or 3 out of the 5 features, let's say, they have are really kind of best of breed, and everything else is sort of subpar. that's going to be a chink in the armor because marketers need complete systems, but they need it to be simple and alleviate some of the stress of their workday.
And speaking of like, you clearly really like the industry you're working in, but the last question for this podcast usually is, so what would you be doing in your life if not this?
Oh my gosh. What would I be doing in my life if not this? It's really, it's so interesting. It's hard. So I'm going to say this. So I started my career as an English and theater arts teacher, but then worked for 8 years in nonprofit performing arts. So in public relations, marketing, and sales. And so there's a piece of me that would go back to the nonprofit space because I see that there are so many nonprofit organizations that are still what I feel like light years behind and could be so much more effective if they were able to make some investments in technology. It could actually, I think, really pay off dividends for them. And so in another life, right, I'd love to go back to nonprofit and help usher a nonprofit into today's modern digital marketing age.
Okay. Well, that was the last question. Thanks everyone for joining us for this month's episode of Outgrow's Market of the Month. That was Jen Spencer. Thanks for joining us, Jen.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Check out the website for more details, and we'll see you once again next month with another Marketer of the Month.